Well, today we are diving into the life and legacy of Dame Maggie Smith, using these articles you provided from Fox News and People magazine. Wow. I have to say, even just from these two pieces, the sheer scope of her career is incredible.
It really is. It's one thing to have a long career in such a tough business, but Maggie Smith wasn't just present, she excelled. Across decades, genres, from stage to screen, that's rare. And it speaks to a certain something extra that goes beyond talent.
You can say that again. And everyone seems to agree the articles are full of tributes. But it's not just respect. There's this, I don't know, a sense of awe. Almost like people were a bit afraid of how brilliant she was.
Right. What's fascinating here is that you see this reverence for her talent and how people talk about her even now. Like they were honored to be in the same room. Almost intimidated. The word legend is thrown around a lot, but with Maggie Smith, it feels truly earned, wouldn't you say?
100%. Okay, so speaking of intimidated, the articles mention her sharp tongue and how she suffered no fools. Was she really that intimidating on set? I have to know.
Let's just say she knew her worth and wasn't afraid to command the respect her talent deserved. But to understand this, I think it's helpful to look at her career arc. Imagine starting at Oxford, no less, in a production of Twelfth Night. The history of that stage alone, it suggests a certain steeliness from the start.
To walk into that environment at that age and hold your own, that's incredible.
It speaks volumes about her dedication to the craft. And it's not like she peaked there. This was just the beginning. She transitioned to film, started earning awards buzz, and was already a respected name before many of us were even born.
And then, of course, there are the two Oscars.
Exactly, which, let's not forget, is an incredibly rare feat. And the fact that they were so spread out really highlights her staying power. She wasn't a flash in the pan. She captivated audiences over decades.
What I find so interesting, though, is that, according to the People magazine article, she called herself a dusty icon. Like she was wanting to downplay the whole thing. So Maggie Smith.
It makes you wonder if that was her way of deflecting the spotlight, of staying grounded in an industry that thrives on hype. Because by all accounts, she was incredibly private when it came to her personal life, despite being married not once but twice to actors. In fact, her first husband was Robert Stevens.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. That adds a whole other layer to her story. Being married to someone who understood the pressures and triumphs of the acting world must have been quite an experience. But tragically, the People article also mentions a poignant quote about her experiencing loneliness after her second husband's death.
It serves as a reminder that behind the iconic roles and accolades, she was a human being with a full spectrum of emotions. Fame and success don't make you immune to life's sorrows. It's a reminder that behind those piercing blue eyes and that commanding presence, there was a real person experiencing the same joys and heartbreaks as anyone else.
It definitely adds another layer to how you see her on screen.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, you can't talk about Maggie Smith without mentioning those legendary on-set anecdotes. The Downton Abbey cast saying she kept people at bay with her cane. That's amazing.
It's absolutely true. And it speaks to something that comes up again and again in both of these articles, this idea that her sharp wit wasn't just for the cameras. It was part of who she was, a way of protecting her space and
I imagine.
keeping things interesting.
Oh, for sure. And the Fox News article has that Rob Lowe quote.
Yeah.
Where he compares working with her to being paired with a lion.
Isn't that perfect?
Yeah.
It encapsulates that aura she projected, that sense of barely contained power. But it's interesting because she wasn't just this untouchable force of nature. Remember Daniel Radcliffe talked about how kind and approachable she was when he was a young actor on Harry Potter?
That's such a good point. It shows a different side to her. And maybe explains why she was so good at playing those formidable characters. It's like she understood the power of contrast, of balancing that sharpness with moments of genuine warmth.
Precisely. And we see this not just in her personality, but in her approach to her work as well. Both articles emphasize her incredible work ethic. This wasn't someone who just coasted on talent. She put in the time, honed her craft, and had a deep respect for the acting profession. It's something that shines through in every performance.
And you can see how that dedication would translate into her stage presence. That ability to command a room, to hold an audience captive with a single look. Those are skills honed over a lifetime of dedication.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because while she was very much a product of a certain era of British theater, her work never felt dated or one-dimensional. There's a timelessness to her performances, which is a testament to her talent as an actress.
I think you're right. She had this incredible range. She could be incredibly funny, like in Sister Act.
Yeah.
But also incredibly dramatic, like in her Oscar-winning role in the prime of Miss Jean Brodie.
Exactly. And it's that versatility, that willingness to push boundaries and embrace different genres that makes her such a compelling figure. She wasn't afraid to take risks, to poke fun at herself even. Think about her comedic timing. It was impeccable.
It makes you wonder what she would have thought of today's celebrity culture, with its constant need for self-promotion and oversharing. She was famously private.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Here we are diving into her life and legacy, and yet she remains somewhat enigmatic, which in a way makes her even more fascinating.
Oh, I can just picture it now. She'd probably be giving us that side eye over a perfectly made martini.
Yeah.
And dropping those legendary one-liners, that would have us both in stitches.
While simultaneously terrifying us a little bit, let's be honest. But that's what made her so captivating, right? That ability to hold an audience in the palm of her hand, whether she was playing a witty dowager or a stern headmistress.
It's so true. And think about how rare that is, especially today. In an age of oversharing, she understood the power of mystery, of letting her work speak for itself.
It's a testament to her intelligence as an artist. She knew that sometimes less is more, that a well-placed silence or a knowing glance can speak volumes. And her work, it did speak volumes, didn't it?
It really did. This deep dive has made me want to go back and rewatch all her films. Knowing what we know now about her personality, her dedication to her craft, you notice different things. Pick up on nuances you might have missed before.
It adds a whole new dimension to the viewing experience, doesn't it? Suddenly, you're not just watching a character, you're catching glimpses of the woman behind the performance. The wit, the intelligence, the vulnerability she brought to every role.
It's like getting a peek behind the curtain, a masterclass in acting just by observing her work. And what's remarkable, as you said earlier, is that despite all the accolades, she never lost sight of the humanity at the heart of her characters.
Exactly. Whether she was playing a queen or a cleaning lady, there was always a sense of empathy, of understanding that shone through. And that's what makes her a true legend, wouldn't you say? Not just the talent, but the heart.
Absolutely. Dame Maggie Smith was one of a kind. A true icon whose legacy will continue to inspire and entertain for generations to come.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's safe to say that her story reminds us that true brilliance endures, that sometimes a touch of mystery only adds to the allure, and that a well-placed zinger never goes out of style.
You've got that right. It makes you wonder what she'd say about all this, about us dissecting her life and career for this deep dive.
Only she would know. But I have a feeling she'd probably just give us that look, that knowing Maggie Smith look, and we'd be left to decipher its meaning long after the conversation ended.